Welcome to Reading the Green, a golf and fantasy sports show. My name is Mike with Kyle on Tuesday, July 9th. This is episode 117, the Scottish Open preview and the John Deere Classic recap. Kyle, welcome to the pod.
Thank you, Mike. Do we need to start creating a want ad for our third person here? This is becoming a theme.
We could do that. I think we just need to maybe we change the intro a little bit. This is just the Mike and Kyle show. Sometimes special guest Jordan. I mean, I don't want to cut him out right now, but let's see. Let's see once we get to the fall season how serious if he's back in.
I think in the last couple of years, the league's always been a thing on Tuesday nights, which is unfortunate. But I feel like his league stays are just becoming a little later and later that make it a little harder for us to work around. That Coors Light must be flowing.
Yeah. We are going to have to figure it out once I become a league golfer. That's something, not a 2024 problem, but maybe a 2025 problem.
Is that also on Tuesdays?
It is. Well, like I said, not something we're going to solve right now. Did you have a good holiday weekend? Did you celebrate America's birthday appropriately?
I did. I unfortunately did not get as many golf rounds in as we discussed last week. It only ended up being 2. But one was good. One was one of my better rounds over the last 2 years. So I think that's an appropriate way to celebrate. Yeah,
I agree.
What about you? You got out on the links, right?
I played once. Spent some time on the lake. Had a little bit of I won't call it a staycation, but went to my in-laws, which only live about 15 miles away, and stayed there for a few nights with the kids, and had a couple of good lake days. And I played at the old club. Took some money off the game, decent amount of money off the game. It was a good feeling. I started 3 over after 3, and it's a really good reminder, not that this was the highest competition, but a little bit more money on the line that I've been playing for this year. And it just got to slow down. I snap hooked a tee shot off the first hole, made double, missed a 4-footer on a temp green on the third hole and made a bogey. And I was 3 over after 3, and then I got it going, played the par 5s and 4 under, and finished with a strong round. But they actually, for people that don't play the regular Sunday game, they cap your winnings. I'm not going to get into how the points all work, but they cap my points. So I won a couple of skins, but then I couldn't collect as much as I would have. I have to play 3 times before I can collect the maximum amount. What do you think about
that? I get it both ways. But I have some questions.
It's a quota points game, and they also do this thing with your quota where they will raise or lower your quota based on how often you meet your quota. So if you meet your quota, they will raise your quota the next week. And if you miss your quota, they'll lower your quota the next week. So it feels a lot like just passing money around in a circle, but I was happy to collect and get out of there.
You're going to have to explain that one to me offline.
Yeah, offline. All right. Rest of the holiday week was good. Biggest talker in the golf world coming out of the weekend, Keegan Bradley, out of nowhere with the Ryder Cup captaincy for 2025 at Bethpage Black. Apparently, the PGA of America had been working on Tiger Woods for several months, and he ultimately turns down the opportunity, saying, if I can't give my whole self to that role, given all the other things I'm doing for the PGA, I'm not going to do it. So they turn around and call Keegan out of the blue, and he says yes. Where are you at on this?
I feel like I've been twisting in the wind. First off, let's talk Tiger a little bit. I am completely okay with Tiger not doing it. I didn't think this was a time that they even should have tried to roll out Tiger. I think you go to Tiger the next time it's in Europe. So I would have been completely okay with the run-of-the-mill Freddie Couples type pick here. Keegan, the thing that's weird to me is his age and that he still has the ability to play as, that mid-tier player that could have worked himself into the team. And I know he's came out and said he still plans on trying to make the team and hopefully makes the team, but he's not going to pick himself if he doesn't auto qualify. But I get the idea to go back to the drawing board, but I think this is maybe a touch drastic for me, especially a U.S. soil one. That's where I'm at, Mike. I'm kind of twisting the wind on it, though. My opinions are not anchored yet.
What is Keegan Bradley's world golf rank? OWGR world golf rank.
38.
19.
Oh, wow.
And I know he had a good year last year. He's 19 in the world. He's 37th in the FedEx Cup. I don't know where he's at on the money list, and that's, it's all kind of money that drives the Ryder Cup qualifying. Very conceivably, with maybe a couple decent finishes back half of this year and a good year next year, that he could be in the top 6. Like, that's not out of the question. He's still playing good golf, and so it's just never been done. I don't know why it I think most of the golf world kind of is like, hell yeah, this is cool. Like, let's shake it up. You want to shake it up? Let's shake it up. It does. The only thing that doesn't sit well with me is how much Netflix is influencing this. Is this purely for Full Swing season 3? It was such a big deal in season 2. Is there something going on behind the scenes that's like, well, we have to tell this redemption arc? And so Netflix and the PGA of America, because it's PGA of America, right? Not PGA Tour. It's PGA of America that's making the selection.
Yeah.
And are they in cahoots to say, well, this is the perfect ending to the story, and it's on American soil, so he had a 70% chance to win instead of a 10% chance to win. It's going to be awesome for TV. It just, I don't mind it. I think, yeah, the guy loves the Ryder Cup. He's going to do a great job. He's going to put all his effort into it, but it reeks of contriving.
Yeah, that's a good point. Especially, having Zach Johnson call him, right? Like, that Zach Johnson was the one that called and asked. Like that.
Oh, really? I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
I didn't independently validate that
protocol?
I swear I saw that on Twitter today.
Is that protocol? Like, the past captain offers the next captain?
Well, and there's something else that said too, it's like a 6-man committee and Zach Johnson, Jordan Spieth, and Justin Thomas were 3 of the 6. I don't know if that's validated either.
Plus
I have
Chad,
to look into that.
Plus Chad Mims from Netflix, and
yeah,
it just feels
I think you put it. I
Hollywoodish.
You're correct, and maybe you surmise some of my thoughts there. One of the reasons I'm struggling with it, because it doesn't seem genuine as much as I would like it to be if you're going to go completely off script. And I keep going back to, and it kind of the same take as Tiger. If you're going to go off script, do it when you go to Europe, right? All right. Well, that hasn't worked in the past.
Nothing to lose. You got nothing to lose then.
Yeah. We're here. You're at best play age. And of course, there's the Northeast narrative with Keegan too. Connecticut wins the Travelers, all that.
It's from Boston
too. Yeah.
Went to school in New York. Yeah, I get it. But you don't need a pump up story at Bethpage.
Correct.
You just the fans are going to bring the energy. If the U.S. loses at Bethpage, it's not Keegan Bradley's fault. It's there's zero reason they should lose. And if they do lose, he's going to take the blame. And I don't think that's fair. You'd rather introduce him, you're right, in Europe where they're probably going to lose. And at least he doesn't have to take the blame.
Yeah. So, and then the last thought I had on this is, I think some of this seems to be kind of a panic selection. They were hoping Tiger, but I also don't think Tiger would have been the ask here if he didn't have all the shakeup the last 2 years, because this sure seems like it would have been a Phil Bubba. Actually, Bubba, I'm guessing, if the world stayed the same, this would have been a perfect Bubba spot.
Yeah, I mean, but Phil would have been in line at some point as well.
Yeah,
and you can't take. I think I saw this term, so I it's not totally mine, but you can't take chief recruiter for Liv and put him in this spot. I still think Phil would kind of fight, right? But
yeah, there's no way they're taking one of those guys because, all the crap they've said.
There are other options besides Keegan Bradley. I'm into it. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be fun to watch all the narratives that come out of this. But I'll say it again. The only thing I offer is that like this is going to be beaten to death on Full Swing season 3.
Who would have been Mike's pick?
Who would have? I should have come prepared with that. That would have been that would. I mean, it would have seemed like, to your point, like a Freddie Couples, or I mean, it's usually a vice captain. Like who have been the vice captains the last few years?
Davis Love III.
That's who I thought would. But wasn't he? He was the captain at Whistling Straits.
Steve Stricker, Jim Furyk, Fred
Yeah,
Couples,
any of those guys, you feel
Stuart
like you'd
Sink.
cycle through.
Actually, Stuart Sink would have been. Yeah,
I saw his name float around quite a bit. You would think those guys would have cycled through maybe a few more years of that until you could have got Keegan Bradley in like 6 or 7 years. So I don't know. I don't hate the pick. He's going to be infinitely better than Zach Johnson. But
and I also think Zach Johnson got way too much hate. But
well, if he could explain the difference between an average and a mean, then maybe he'll get some redemption. I think Zach comes on as head of analytics for Team USA.
I did see that joke too. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's hit the drinks of choice tonight before we run to the John Deere, because I have some thoughts on the JDC. I am drinking Hop Butcher. Hop Butcher is out of Chicago, and this one is the Soap Boxer Citra Mosaic Simcoe and Nelson Sauvin American Pale Ale 6.0%. If it was the Soap Boxer Pale Ale, you might think there'd be Vic Secret hops in it, but there's not.
Mm-hmm. No, you had me with the first 3 until Nelson.
You're not a Nelson guy. It's actually pretty good. Hop Butcher does a lot of good beer. I do find them to be inching into like this black stack territory where it's like there's like 8 really similar beers every week from Hop Butcher that's coming in at my liquor store, so it's hard to keep up.
Sure. I have a fun little collab this week. I'm breaking my ABV threshold just because I wanted to bring something new to the pod. So I have it Hex Signs. It's also a collab. Fair State and Barntown Brewing out of Des Moines, who brew some great things as well on the hazy IPA front. It's a full juicy fruit forward hazy double IPA with Citra and experimental Cryopop. It's another hop as well. 8.6%. I've only had a couple sips so far, but I'm digging it.
How do you factor in the alcohol if you have a Hop Butcher, but then you also drank a High Noon tequila lime?
Not a nooner, so I'm not. I probably won't be a single bullet. I'll probably have this and then something a little lighter to go with it.
Sure. Well, it's perfect that you chose a Des Moines brewery as we transition to the mainstay for Iowa golf on the PGA Tour. This tournament,
actually played in Illinois.
That's actually played in. You're right. It is played in Illinois. It's Quad Cities. It's half Iowa. It's basically Iowa.
Yeah,
plus it's John Deere, which is
you can see Iowa from the shots of the.
You're right. Yeah. But it's John Deere, which is Iowa, synonymous with farms and tractors and all that. This tournament it seems to be beloved by the players. So much was made of this tournament being the most first-time winners on tour by far. I can't remember the exact number, but I want to say it was at least like, double the number of times first-time winners have won at the John Deere Classic compared to the next most. It's an easy golf course. It played extremely easy this week. Not a lot of wind, pretty soft. What do you think about this event? Is it an easy course, levels the playing field, so we get a lot of first-time winners because these up-and-comers can compete? Is it that it's a soft spot on the schedule, so the strength of the field just isn't as high? Or is it the Iowa effect, that the youngsters are just kind of put at ease with the welcoming community and the hospitality, and they don't have the nerves that they normally would have?
I like the third take there. I like the third one. But it's probably a combination of all. I've actually been pleasantly surprised both in the prep and then some of the post pods this week of people actually realizing that, hey, you need stops like this on the tour. Not everything can be Riv or Torrey Pines that are, things of that nature, obviously. And some people even hate Torrey, obviously. But uh, I think it's a good event. Yes, it's a birdie fest, but you're going to have some birdie fests. But I still maintain, as we talked about last week, I find this course more visually interesting, at least from a TV perspective, than a lot of the other stops in Tour. You have some elevation. It doesn't look like every other course, just from the shots and whatnot. There's some interesting things around the greens. I was surprised how much they tore it up, but the upper Midwest has been super wet, as we talked about last week. So it was soft. There's not as much they could do. And I think it is one of the courses that it's being affected more and more by distance as well. And just, yes, the average drive hasn't increased by that much, but the the young players that we're talking about here are the ones that tend to hit it longer.
On the comment on it being a visually appealing golf course, yeah, it has some nice features, change in elevation, some fescue grass in areas, not a lot of houses. I like, you get kind of sick
Yeah.
of like, it's like River Highlands runs through the houses. You're going to see it at the 3M. It's through people's backyards. I like that you see this style of golf course, and it is out there in the prairie land and and through the woods a little bit. So I do agree that I wish it was a little sunnier. It looked like pretty overcast and rainy most of the weekend. On the youngsters, rising junior Luke Clanton, just having the summer of Luke, finishes T2 after finishing 10th at the Rocket Mortgage, after making the cut in the US Open, and honestly was a three putt from 10 feet away from being the low am. A lot's being made of, is he representative of these youngsters that have all this speed, and they're the ones that are going to force really the equipment changes and all the changes in professional golf? But what a summer this kid's having. What's your take? I mean, obviously someone like Nick Dunlap went out and won a PGA Tour event and then had to make the decision. I mean, that's the difference between finishing second and finishing first, is that Nick Dunlap had a 2-year exemption that he had to make a decision around. Luke Clanton could have very easily been in that position one of the last 2 weeks. But what do you make of this kid who's only 20 years old and going back to college for his junior year, going and competing like this at the professional level?
Yeah, it's been fun to watch. And I mean, the kid obviously can play. I should have looked this up too going in, Mike. Do you know this situation? Isn't there like a Tom Kemp's rule? I wanted to say if he finishes 3 straight top 20s or something like that, like he can get his card, something of that nature.
I'm not sure. I don't know. That we should have looked that up.
Yeah, we should have looked that up. So hot take. Somebody let us know if you know the situation. I tried to quickly look up Rob Bolton Golf. If you don't follow him, I'd recommend. Just he tracks a lot of the rookie rankings sort of thing, but I don't think Clanton is even in
So
his tracking.
so he's
from
not in.
status.
When would he play next? Would he play then at the 3M after? And if this is true, if a strong finish at the 3M would get him his card? I mean, we don't even know if he wants his card.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. It's I think this is a very important thing that the PGA Tour is doing, is making sure that these kids have opportunities. And look, the PGA Tour can't go out and hit the golf ball for Luke and can't go out and hit it for Neil Shipley. Like, these guys have to perform, but you're giving these guys opportunities on stages with players that are, higher, that are better than them, and they're showing up.
Well,
And
he's a betting favorite this week, right? Or
that's absolutely crazy. Oh, that's right. He's playing at the ISCO. So
yeah.
I was like, what happened to the Barbasol? It's now called the ISCO, being played in Kentucky this week. He's the betting favorite. I just buried the lead. He is the betting favorite as an amateur at an alternate field event of real golfers. Like, I was commenting that, Daniel Berger is up there in the top 5 betting card, but the other 2 guys were amateurs not more than a month ago. I think it's important for the PGA Tour to give these guys opportunities. It's just crazy that he's taking advantage of it.
Apparently,
So
his goal, he's a no rush return pro, so he's perfectly fine going back to college next year.
yeah. All right. Well, that's a lot on kind of the John Deere storylines. One more thing, obviously, got to mention Davis Thompson. Davis Thompson is the winner. You'd like to say, boy, did Davis Thompson, did he come out of nowhere and win this golf tournament? I would say no.
Not if you listened to our pod last week.
Not
We
even
gave him
start
tons of lip
podcast. No.
service. He was on the hypothetical betting card. That couldn't happen. Damn you, Patrick Cantlay.
Davis Thompson finishes 27th, 9th, 2nd ahead of his first career win at the John Deere Classic. No, this guy did not come out of nowhere. Now, did it come out of nowhere that he was going to lead a golf tournament by 6 strokes going into the back 9 and ultimately win by 4? Yeah, that was a little surprising. But the one thing that stuck out to me in the broadcast, Ian Baker Finch brought this comment up. He was talking to Brendan Todd, and apparently Brendan Todd, of all people, said that we got to keep an eye out on Davis Thompson. This guy is the next Scotty Scheffler. And I think the comment was made primarily because of the way that he plays, his length, and the fact that they're both 6'4". But like Scotty Scheffler has been a thing for like 3 years. Are we already trying to move on from Scotty Scheffler and just find the next guy? Like, I get when you say the next Tiger Woods, but why are we already finding the next Scotty Scheffler?
Well, and the thing I struggle with from Scotty Scheffler comps, right, is like I see Scotty Scheffler as, you know, he was on the tour, he was very good. He was 20-1 every week for 2 years before he won, and then it came in bunches. So when you're making that sort of statement, are you already saying that, hey, the wins are going to come in bunches? Because I don't see Davis Thompson as that guy. He's been playing well lately. He popped once or twice last year, but he's a guy on the rise. But I don't, at least from a trajectory standpoint, I don't see him as being the same as Scotty. Scotty didn't get the early win.
He didn't. No, Scotty had a couple of good rounds at times, and you knew he had the firepower. But yeah, I mean, once Scotty won that first event, it was off to the races. So we don't know because Davis Thompson hasn't played any golf tournaments since he won. We'll find out. I don't know that I love him is he playing? I don't even know if he's in the field at the Scottish Open. I think he is.
He is.
Yeah. All right. Well, a couple of other RTG things from the John Deere Classic. We had the Listener League results. Random G12 Anad, however we want to pronounce this handle, takes down the win. I think we called his name out or her name out a couple of weeks ago as well. Buke 0215 in second, and new Listener League participant Sofisa 1314 finishes in third. Kyle, we got a lot right this week. Hammering Mikey Thor, as you like to call him, Thorby, Michael Thorbjornsen, hammering Mikey Thor. Ben Griffin on my part. Aaron Rye was chalky, but you know, he was the right chalk to play this week. Frankly, the only thing that we missed, I mean, our cheapies at the top of our model, Patton Kazire, Troy Merritt, Kelly Craft, all missed the cut, but I was a full fade on Merritt and Kazire. I did pick up Craft in one contest, didn't matter because it was a cash game, and I still hit the money line. But yeah, good week for the model, and it led to some easy money.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Unfortunate the timing with the fourth and just live stuff going on. I didn't get very many lineups in this week, and not even reserved a contest that I didn't enter a lineup. Forgot to go back to it. But yeah, Davis Thompson talked about last week, had a bunch of him. Zach Johnson was a solid play for his price point. Yeah, we had a good week. I wish I had more. I wish I had more bites at the apple going.
Always the case. And we'll shout out Landon Selinsky, second week in a row as the top RTG expert. Denny McCarthy, Kevin Yu, Lucas Glover. So nobody really near the top, but 3 pretty good floor plays if you were building out a lineup following Landon. Always a good read for DFS prep. And then gutsiest play goes to John Haselbauer on Carson Young. I guess Carson Young, being a shorter, more accurate hitter, maybe not surprising, would play well at the John Deere. Certainly seems like a guy with the stash that he rocks. That seems like he's a 28-year-old living in a 48-year-old's body. So kind of fits the JDC narrative.
I wish they had the winners like get the trophy, like sit on a tractor to get the trophy, or like pull up in a combine, something of that nature. Like, come on, lean all the way in to the event. Just do your live shot from out in the cornfield. Not that you're combining right now, right? But like, bye.
Speaking of trophies, what do you make a trophy house? 3 years straight,
Mike.
You know what I'm talking.
Oh, no. Okay,
Oh,
yes.
all the
Straka.
Bulldogs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yep.
JTP, Sepp Straka. These guys all saying, and Sepp decides not to stay in the Bulldog house because he brings his wife and young kid to the JDC this year. And so he says, "Hey, Davis, you want my spot?" And of course, if you're Davis Thompson, well, you'd be like, "Of course I want your spot. This place hands out trophies." And then he wins.
How much is that owner jacking that rate next year?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
I mean, yeah.
It's that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Do you have one and done up?
Oh, see, this is the one thing we count on Jordan for,
Yep.
and then he doesn't. So I'm pretty upset with myself and one done because talk so much Davis Thompson. Davis Thompson was going to be the pick for me, and then I clicked Maverick McNeely just Monday morning as my placeholder. Meant to come back to Davis Thompson, and just like everything last week, I did not do so. So that was very unfortunate for me because we did have one Davis Thompson pick. JYATD took home the 1.4 million, and that's a big pickup because the next best place was 7. So we had a whole bunch of people on Denny and Aaron Rye coming in 7th, but that's only 252,000. We had some Sung Jays only get 171. We had a Kevin Yu. I thought that was an off the board pick. Comes home with a 20th and 106,000. And then I missed the cut with old Maverick McNeely. So Mav is kind of dead to me now with 2 straight weeks of burning us in either the DFS streets or the one and done streets. But we still have Champles in the way. He's up to 19.7 million. Stogie is right behind him. Book, A Dingus, and then Micah Jordan, 5th, 6th, and I've fallen to 9th. So still all in the running up there, but we need to chase down Champles.
Yeah, not a lot of movement this week at the top just because there's just not much money flowing out. I took Jordan Spieth this week, which I guess didn't do much damage. I know that I switched to somebody. I switched off somebody to Spieth. I'm going to say I switched off Davis Thompson to Spieth. I can't remember, but yeah, hanging in there. This week is going to be, let's just kind of tread water this week, and then you got to hit your open pick right. Finally get a purse that's going to bring some money back into play.
Open pick, and then the first 2 weeks of the playoff, right?
Of course.
Or the last 2 weeks of the one and done. So those are going to be the 3 times to make your move.
All right, you ready to talk Scottish Open?
Yeah, I'm excited for the week, Mike.
Okay. Well, we're headed overseas, and I really like the way that this has turned out the last couple of years, with the Scottish Open now being a co-sanctioned DP World Tour PGA Tour event. This is the 3rd year that we have the co-sanctioned event, which effectively makes it a full week warm up to the Open Championship. Guys go over there, get acclimated, etc. So we're headed to North Berwick, Scotland. And Kyle, what golf course are we playing this tournament at?
The Renaissance Club.
I'm trying to call it the A. I was gonna call it the A. The Renaissance. Something like that. Full field event. Last year, Rory McIlroy wins, literally rips the beating heart out of Robert McIntyre in his hometown National Open with a 2-iron. That has now been it was a sick 2-iron. I mean, from all angles, it was a pretty sick 2-iron, but has now been immortalized on the 18th hole of the Renaissance Club with a plaque that reads, Rory McIlroy, 2023 Scottish Open, 202 yards, 2-iron.
Into the wind. But I hope Rory's drive.
Does it say into the wind on it?
But no, it was, right?
I know it was, but it was a 202-yard 2-iron.
I hope his drive, somebody's drive. I mean, it's probably going to have to be a short hitter unless it was into the wind again, because Rory's going to blow by it, right? I hope somebody's drive hits that plaque and just launches at some point during the round.
It seems like a strange thing to immediately immortalize with a plaque. I mean, I can think of, courses have plaques, and I can think of locally here at Interlaken, there are 2 plaques that sit on the 9th hole of Interlaken, which I think traditionally has played as the 18th hole in larger tournaments. And in 2008 at the U.S. Women's Open, there was a plaque. A plaque was installed following Annika Sorenstam holing a shot for eagle after she drove it in the water. She holes a shot from 195 yards for eagle in what is her, at that time, last professional golf tournament. So, hey, that was pretty cool. And that was immortalized with a plaque.
What this is telling me is I should order a plaque for myself. Where I played on Friday, I drove it into the water, and then I was 205 or probably 215 out, and I hit my 5-wood blind shot onto the green. Well, through the green slightly, but details, right? Like and say bogey after driving the water. I should order myself a plaque for that.
It kind of
and install it at this private club that I'm not a member of.
It, I do think her shot was maybe a little more impactful in the world of golf, but there also is a plaque for Bobby Jones, 1930 U.S. Open, skipped a ball off the water en route to winning the golf tournament that year. Okay, so a couple of plaques that make sense. But Rory, he wins the Scottish Open. He's not from Scotland. Like, I don't understand why they had to immortalize this shot one year after. Whatever. I've talked a lot about the plaque. I hope TV does not mention it at all, because I think it's absolutely absurd. Anyways, you got a lot on the golf course. All I really understand is this is a Tom Doak design, and it's like the most American links style Scottish golf course you could dream up.
Yeah, it's still wild to me. This is, as you mentioned, Tom Doak in 2008. We couldn't find an older course to play this at. With lots of options, guys. And,
yep.
It has played here. This would be the 6th iteration of the event. We've had everywhere from 7 under win the Xander year to 22 under win. So obviously we're playing link style golf, and it's going to in the British Isles, and it's going to drastically change depending on the weather conditions. It has always played very close as well. In the 5 years, we've had 3 playoffs. And the 2 years we didn't have a playoff, it also had a close finish, as we talked about last year. It's a par 70, 7,200 yards. Fescue, everything. All the grass on the course of fescue. Funky thing this week, there's 5 par 3s and only 3 par 5s. The par 3s, 2 are shorter, and then there's 3 that are 200 plus. But it has, like, to take the weather conversation, it has been very wet in the area. And currently, what I see from a weather perspective is it's really unfortunate this thing doesn't tee off on Wednesday, because we could have had some fun Wednesday morning. But it seems to be pretty benign. I think we get a little wind, but nothing for this area Thursday morning. Maybe Friday in the afternoon it picks up a touch. Maybe Saturday in the afternoon it picks up a touch, and then Sunday. But it is the British Isles. It can change very drastically. I would also say my take on what we're going to play here is going to be very dependent on the weather. If it's no wind or not crazy winds, it's a bomb and gouge fest. The fairways are hard to hit, but it's not penal if you miss, unless you end up in a pot bunker. So lean off the tee and putting. The greens are hard, but they're slow. It's fescue. You have to keep them sloped, especially in the windy conditions. So the comp course I would look at there would be like a Memorial Park in Houston, for somewhere the PGA Tour plays often. If there is more wind, or we see that creeping up over the next 24 hours, that's where I'm going to look more for a balanced game. Maybe take scrambling more into account, iron play even more into account. 67% of your shots are 150 yards plus from approach. But based on what we see, Mike, I'm leaning towards guys with drivers and can make some putts.
Yeah, there's really 2 stats that stick out to me. It's length and it's length. You either need length with your driver or you need length with your irons, because you're going to be hitting a lot of, like you said, a lot of long iron shots, 175 plus, 200 plus, and you got the par 5s. Does the phrase "be an artist out there" mean anything to you?
Old Cameron Tringale?
Cameron Tringale shoots, I believe, 60? What do you shoot? 61 in the 61. Opening round.
Yeah.
61 in the opening round of the 2022 Scottish Open. Doesn't break par the rest of the week. Still finishes T6, but is quoted saying, "It's fun to be an artist out there," after his Thursday round. So
that's how I feel as well, Cameron. I feel it.
All right. Well, we have a pretty strong field. I think we have 20 of the 25 top FedEx Cup points earners this year playing. Obviously, Scotty Scheffler's not playing. There's a handful of other names that won't be there, but a lot of guys, a lot of the top names are over there getting tuned up for the Open Championship. So with that, Kyle, is the RTG model leaning heavily on PGA Tour talent? Or do we have anybody creeping in that's playing a DP World Tour schedule this year?
We have some sprinkles. As you said, I'm excited about this field. It has not been very often this year. We've had a full field event with a good amount of studs in it, right? That just hasn't happened with the elevated event structure. So I'm excited. Leading the way so far at 47% mention share, Tom Kim and Xander Schauffele, former champion, as we discussed. TK is 9,500 this week. Xander at 11.7. MPI likes Xander much more at this point. Right behind them, we also have Bobby Mack, who I believe has two runner-ups here, right? Or, well, he was a runner-up and then lost in a three-man playoff. I'll get back to that playoff when he lost in that playoff as well. Bobby Mack, 7,800. The Scot himself, Tommy Fleetwood, 99. And both at 38%, as I mentioned, and both pretty strong MPI so far. And then we have a whole gaggle of folks coming in right at 31%. Aaron Rai, EVR, Thomas Dietrich, Tom Hoagie, Victor Hovland, and Wyndham Clark. Of those, MPI is leaning towards Vic at this point.
Interesting stuff. So nobody, I mean, I guess you got to go even further down, 15% mention share at this point for kind of DP World Tour big event name. Jordan L. Smith tends to pop often as a guy that, you know, is nobody else playing. I think this guy ends up kind of getting steamed up every time we're playing overseas. But yeah, so we're going to see PGA Tour guys. That's typically the case here, that we're seeing PGA Tour guys that do well in these conditions. Yeah, I like to see my guy Tables getting steamed up a little bit. We know he's a strong iron player, and we know this course is going to want guys that play well from long distances on approach. But Kyle, I have a whole thing to get into on how to pick a few names this week. Do you want me to start, or do you want to go ahead?
I'll get my guys out of the way.
Okay.
And so that way I'm not skewed by your strong stances here, right? So at the top, I have not decided between Xander and Rory. I'm probably gonna pick one. I think it could be a week where I end up scattering at the top of the board a little bit more and picking my guys down low. But at this point in time, I think I'm going to pick one. My lean so far is Xander. You just get that little bit of salary savings. But if Xander's trending higher owned than Rory, I'll 100% go to Rory. I'm not scared after the U.S. Open, and I can't wait to click Rory next week. And I'm thinking...
I'm sorry, you're not scared by a second place finish at the U.S. Open? Like, let's not forget, he didn't blow up.
No, and people, but like, you know, going into hiding, whatnot. So
yeah.
I kind of hope actually people go away from him this week and I can get in, but if not, my lean right now is probably Xander if all things equal. But then my three stances are going to be, I like Vic. He's coming in at 30% so far, 93 on the MPI, real strong. Ulrich's on him, Andy Lack, Matt Gannon. Short game is minimized here. Good off the tee, has shown the ability to have some hot putting weeks. He gained 3 strokes on the green at Valhalla. He gained 3 at the Century. Some places where you have some longer leg type putts. Used to playing some of those Euro courses as well at the BMW Championship and last fall at the Wentworth Club. He gained 5 strokes off the putting and 4.2 off the tee. So I think Vic is a good value of where he's at. especially if you like some of those younger guys or cheaper guys, and he can be your second guy in. Speaking of value, I'm gonna take one of the Hogard brothers, but I'm gonna take Rasmus, not Nikolai. I
Mm.
like that at 6,800. He's only gotten two mentions so far, but he was T4 last time out, and he's had a T10 here. Um, just, if you're looking for someone that might fly a little bit under the radar, but is used to playing this style of golf, and actually coming up, Rasmus before Nikolai was kind of the bigger name for a point in time. So I think he could be a good value this week, 6,800. And then my two other value plays for you. Tom McKibben is only
Mm.
7,000. Yeah, he is
Only.
Northern Ireland, but he has been eighth, six, and two second on the last three starts on the DP World Tour. He was 41st at the US Open. So I think, yes, to your point, 7,000 might scare people away a little bit. But if you're looking for a DP World Tour guy to play, I like that. And then, Mike, there's someone that popped when I just looked at on Rick Run Good running a model that's heavy off the tee, distance, and putting. Right? I didn't put anything else into it. I'm just like, hey, who are some guys that pop up?
Hmm.
And this guy actually showed fifth in my model when I was doing that. He's only $6,800, so obviously that caught my attention. Here's English. Hasn't been in great form. Missed the cut at the Memorial. Missed the cut at Charles Schwab. T40 41 at U.S. Open. T63 at Travelers. But he was 18th at the PGA, which if we don't get wind here, I don't mind going to Harris English if no one else is going to click there and save some money down board and allow you to stuff in maybe two or even three at the top. All right. And Harris is
I,
6,800, by the way.
I love the
Let's hear
takes
the
in it.
take.
Well, and Harris doesn't strike me as a bomber, but I think he is there. He's above average in distance off the tee, gaining off the tee regularly this year. So that could be a little sneaky again at 6,800. I'm going to start even deeper. This is I just want to offer a value play right off the bat. I texted you about this. There was a player last week that DraftKings had at $9,000 for the JDC, and it was Sam Stevens. And again, Sam he's been up and coming on the PGA Tour. He's had a pretty decent season. He's on this run outside of missing the cut at the Charles Schwab Colonial. After missing the cut at the Charles Schwab. Fourth at the Zurich Classic, 62nd at the CJ Cup by Nelson, 10th at Myrtle Beach, 14th at the RBC, finishes T2 at Corn Ferry, I believe the week at the Memorial, comes back T10, Rocket Mortgage, and earns $9,000 salary at the JDC and finishes T34. So we go to the Scottish Open, which is a stronger field. I don't have the numbers exactly how much stronger it is in the JDC, but it also has, the falls off pretty quickly at the Scottish Open. And so we go and throw Sam Stevens back at $6,200. And Sam Stevens is a bomber. I mean, that is his narrative. He's top 30 in driving distance, strokes gained off the tee this year on the PGA Tour. I don't know about that overcorrection, and I'm now following Spencer Aguiar over at Rotoballer, one of our stronger contributors, who's also on Sam Stevens this week, and agrees that this is a massive overcorrection. And you could almost think about it similarly with Davis Thompson, that if Davis Thompson would have finished 34th and Sam Stevens would have finished second, you could have imagined them swapping price points this week. So if Sam Stevens really is going to be sub 5% owned, and we are going to have pretty calm weather that's going to favor the bomb and gouge narrative, sign me up. Like I think that's a hammer play at 6,200. I just hope he doesn't get steamed up in double-digit ownership.
I like it. And to kind of tie that and finish my thought and take your boy Sam Stevens to the table, just quickly built the lineup. I mean, you can go Xander, Ludwig, Victor, and if you put Sam Stevens in and go to another cheaper play that's on my radar, I haven't decided yet, but Matthew Southgate at $5,600 and click Cameron Davis. That lineup works.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of star power there. All right, Kyle. We're playing at the Genesis Scottish Open, and we talk a lot about course fit, and that's obviously paramount when it comes to figuring out how guys set up each week. We have tournament fit. Some guys just play well in certain tournaments. Like, guys play well in the Open Championship. Guys play well in U.S. Opens. Like, the style of golf fits their eye. But that got me wondering. We're playing at the Genesis Scottish Open, and Genesis somehow finds a way to sponsor two golf tournaments on the PGA Tour. They sponsor the Genesis Invitational at Riviera, and they sponsor the Genesis Open, Scottish Open. Is there something? Do some guys play better for certain sponsors? What do you think, Kyle?
I mean, you know a lot about RSM, and do you
But
have correlation
but I'm
there between their two
but see,
events?
that's course fit that they sponsor one event. I'm thinking, like, regardless of where Genesis puts their name, someone going to play well for Genesis. AT&T has traditionally sponsored multiple events. Do some guys just play better when AT&T is, the title sponsor? Do some guys just play better at RBC events? The
I,
answer
I,
is
I have a
yes.
feeling that yes, the Jordan Spieth ATT events, right? Let's go.
The answer is yes, and I'm going to start with that. AT&T, Jordan Spieth has owned these events. He is top 10 in strokes gained at both what traditionally was the AT&T Byron Nelson, and then he also has played very well at Pebble Beach at the AT&T Pro-Am. And so Jordan Spieth would be a guy that, hey, in multiple event sponsors shows up. And oh, by the way, yeah, he was cut last year at the Renaissance Club, but he was 10th the year before, and he is surprisingly top 30-ish in driving distance this year. And his game has been literally all over the place, and I have zero faith in him. But he did pull off a 63 last week, and he had an okay finish at the JDC. But this guy shows up for his sponsors, and so I'm wondering if he plays well at multiple tournament sponsor Genesis. I'm just wondering. Second on my list is Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy Fleetwood has really played well at RBC events. He's played very well at the Canadian Open over the years. I have him as my gaining the third most strokes behind JT and Rory. JT only playing one Canadian Open. But Tommy playing very well at the Canadian Open over the years, and also playing very well at Harbour Town. So it's quite possible. The model loves Tommy Fleetwood this week at the Renaissance Club. I have him in 8 measured rounds on the PGA Tour as fourth in my model. 6 straight top 26s for Tommy Fleetwood. Now I know that he's coming in. He's going to be really your top guy, sub 10K, $9,900 this week. He's going to attract a lot of ownership, but he's got all the tools right now, even showing some length. He has a 6th and a 4th in the past 2 years at the Renaissance Club. Like, what else do you want? Even for a second guy in, like, this to me smells like first win incoming for Tommy Fleetwood. I also have a countryman that plays well at RBC events, another, that multiple tournament sponsor, Matt Fitzpatrick, our top power index play of the tournament here. Fitz's game has been, I don't know, a little bit all over the place. We sweated him out at the U.S. Open when he eventually finished T64, finished T36 in a birdie fest at Travelers, but he was 5th at the Memorial. Going back to the Zurich, he finished 11th somehow with his brother. He carries that team. He was 5th at the Players. Like, he has flashed this year, and now we get him back on comfortable turf. Matt Fitzpatrick shows up in multiple tournament sponsors. And then lastly, probably the guy that I really hope I get below 15% ownership at $7,700 this week, a 12th and a 16th at the Renaissance Club the last 2 years. His form has never really been good coming into this tournament. He does crazy things like go and play North Berwick Country Club on Friday afternoon after finishing his round at the Renaissance Club. But Max Homa can be a grinder. if we get a little bit of weather, he might have to grind it out. Around the green play has been really strong for Max. I'm wondering where his length went the last 4 measured rounds. He, for some reason, is below average on distance at Pinehurst, at River Highlands, at Murfield Village, and at Colonial. Very possible that those courses kind of forced him into a certain style of play, but Max generally has the right stat profile to play well at the Renaissance Club. So he's probably my favorite play of the week, as long as I can get hopefully a little bit of leverage there at Max 7,700. What do you think, Kyle? Do guys play well for sponsors?
I like it. Taking a stand, right? And finding a way to maybe take a unique stand. If people are just going to go the bomb and gouge model, that's a unique way to look at it. And I don't mind Max this week. Of that vein, if you wanted to get a little crazy, a single entry, I mean, Will's Outdoors is really cheap too.
That's I mean, actually, it's not disrespect to this game. Is really he's lost as well, but 6,900 for Will's Outdoors. Didn't think I'd see the day.
Yeah, correct. So I like your take, Mike. The last thing I wanted to put a bow on, I didn't have the stat in front of me when we talked Harris English. Yes, he's 35th in distance in this field, but he is 8th when you look at total driving. So that helps him up, and he is very good on slower greens.
A lot of good names there. I love as the field elevates, there's a chance to get some players sub 10K, 8K, 7K, 6K. We got a lot of players that are not Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, or Ludwig Aubert that you can do some fun things with. I think you're right. You got to make a choice at the top. I think one of those 3 guys got to be in your best lineup this week, but then get funky.
Yeah. Yeah. Or if you feel really strongly at the bottom, maybe you go the inverse. But I think one thing we're kind of landing on, I hadn't had this thought yet, is just from a general lineup construction standpoint. I know guys like Wyndham Clark's getting a little bit of steam, Aaron Rai, but I think people are going to end up more studs and duds approach. They're going to find a way to cram in 3 guys at the top of the board because there is some fun DP World Tour names that you can take down low. I'm starting to think that's where people are going to go, as opposed to start, building a lineup with Fitz, Tom Kim, Rye, Dietrich, EVR, Hoagie.
Well, and if you look at the last 2 years of results here, you have some names in the top 10 that sneak in there that if you really want to do well this week, you got to find a way to them. So obviously in 2022, you Schauffele winning, Kitayama's there, Tom Kim, Fleetwood, Cantlay, and then also T6 Jamie Donaldson, who most people aren't getting to if you're not following DP World Tour Golf. And then again, you think about that last year, it's McIlroy, okay, Bobby Max up there, Ben on, and then David Lingmerth is having a good week. And at the time, before we really knew him, Nikolai Højgaard was having a good week. Grant Forrest from Scotland was finished in 11th. So there's going to be a name that's going to be 1% to 2% owned that you could find a way to, especially if you're going to do some kind of MME entry and just blow a bunch of lineups in there. So if I could, Kyle, give you a way to just even hear the names of 12 players that might find their way to the top 10 this week, maybe we could use the name game for that.
I can't kill that segue. I have something else I want to come back to, but I'll do it later. Right?
Okay. All right. Well, last week, as I compiled the results for the name game, the JDC name game, I looked at my score and I said, well, I had obviously Bridgman, Dylan Wu, Chan Kim. I had 183 points. Chan Kim actually had a nice week. I had to finish in first, and you and the listeners ended up cruising past us. You and me finishing pretty close. Or actually, Jordan and I finishing pretty close. Listeners cruised past us by over 100 points. Justin Suh, Doug Gim, and CT Pan again out of nowhere. CT Pan. It's CT Pan week. So it's tough. The listeners have bumped themselves up to 8 wins on the year, separating from me, sitting at 7 wins. you still have a narrow lead at 9. I didn't think this would happen after I was on such a hot run. Well,
I love that Jordan's still at 2 after he got cocky last year. Oh.
of course. So, name game for the Scottish Open. We got 4 teams of 3 countrymen that play a DP World Tour schedule. So one of these guys, I have a feeling one of these 12 guys are going to have a good week. You just got to find a way to one of them.
For sure.
So here we go. Team 1, Team Germany. Matty Schmid, Yannick Paul, and Marcel Siem. Yannick Paul and Marcel Siem are 2 absolute bombers. So some of Team Germany this week could be worth looking at if you want to get real cheap in the 5Ks. Team 2, Team Scotland, not Bobby Mack, but Grant Forrest. I just mentioned him. Connor Sinney, I'll go with, and Callum Hill. Team 3 is Team England. Again, reaching deep here. Matthew Jordan, Todd Clements, and Richard Mansell. And Team 4 is Team Sweden. Vincent Norman, Alexander Bjork, and Sebastian Soderberg. And I'll end with Sebastian, and not to add any bias to this, but you did see that Sebastian blew an 8-shot Sunday lead in a recent DP World Tour event.
Well, yeah, it happens, right? It's just yeah.
All salaries coming in between $17,000 and $17,400. So most of these guys are sitting in the 5K range.
So I get to go first.
First dibs.
I'm intrigued by Team Germany, especially some of the DP World Tour bettors we follow really always seem to like to bet on Yannick Paul. It's a name I feel like I see and hear a lot. And I like Matty Schmid. I played Matty Schmid quite a bit as well.
Really, all 3 of those guys, bombers.
Yeah, I'm going to go Sweden though. Alexander Bjork, Vincent Norman have played a little bit this year, and come on, Sebastian, you're the anchor at 6,400.
All right, so despite blowing an 8-shot lead earlier this year, looking for the bounce back. What do you think Jordan does?
Well, I think he's got to take Team England because there's a guy named Matthew Jordan. Okay, and Richard Mansell, that would be the only name here. He'd be like, oh, I feel like I've heard that name. Maybe Vincent Norman would be the only other one he would maybe know.
This leaves me with a tough decision because I have to choose between what we just said about Team Germany probably being the course fit and Team Scotland being the hometown favorites. And again, I just mentioned that we've had some top finishes there. Oh God, don't say anything. Oh well, go ahead. You gonna offer a point of view?
I was just gonna say, to be like, I typed Connor Syme. I don't know. You said it different. It's a name today, but Grant Forrest and Callum Hill have not been on my radar ever. That's all I'm gonna offer. But they're a higher salary than the Germans.
By $100. By $100. I think I have to go with Team Germany. Better team on paper, course fit. If the listeners are going to burn me taking Team Scotland when I feel like I got the skill stats, then so be it.
Yeah, and I think it's fitting to give listeners Scotland, give them the hometown. Like that. I might have actually, if you asked me and they had first pick, I probably would have given them Scotland.
All right. Well, good luck. Hopefully, like I said, one of these guys finishes well this week. It's almost guaranteed. So, all right, let's wrap things up. Kyle, you had another take for the Scottish Open.
Last take is back to our season-long Calcutta, which got off to a fire start, and then has just been sparklers every now and then, but a lot of things flaring out, to use a 4th of July analogy. But could this be a Thomas Dietrich week? I keep feeling like, we tried to find the Killer Keith week. We tried to find the Thomas Dietrich week. So I did not know all the Dietrich history here. So the year that Min Woo won, so we're going back 3 years ago, that Dietrich had a 3-foot putt and was mid-putting stroke when they blew the horn for a delay and missed the putt. And then ended up in a playoff and lost to Minwoo in that playoff that Bobby Mack was already also in. But if a horn does not go off in Thomas Dietrich's putting stroke, he probably wins that tournament. So can we have a Thomas Dietrich?
I realized that I had my data golf filter set up incorrectly. I had selected courses the Renaissance Club, but all the DP World Tour results were under Renaissance Club. I had missed. So I would love it. I'd love to have a Dietrich week. I think that is very fitting. Brandon Wu also, I believe, owns a top finish here. 2022, we finished T6. So hey, there's a couple of guys that hanging around. They might be all right. I can tell you one guy not playing this week anywhere is Aaron Wise. So
yes, and some people like Keith as well. But those guys will not be in my DFS lineup for that exact reason. We have enough of them elsewhere.
What about a betting card?
Yes, betting card. Vic 22 for 3 units. Wyndham Clark. I don't think I'm gonna get there from a DFS perspective, but 55-1 at a course that's all driver and putter potentially seems like a good number for 1.5. Sahith Theegala, he was 65, and again, not a guy I want to click, but 65 seems like a good number and a guy that can Houdini his way around. And then I mentioned Rasmus from a DFS perspective, but I did throw a little bit on Nikolai at 100, half a unit.
Okay. Yeah, I like the Wyndham Clark thought there, especially at 55-1. I know his game has been fairly absent, but he showed up early at the elevated events, doing exactly what you just said. A lot of drivers and putters. Feels like a good time for him to get back to it.
Yeah, let's unfortunately I didn't get the win that I deserved last week, so let's go get one.
All right. Well, anything else to round out this evening?
Mike, I need to get in I'm not going to be in a betting state next Monday. So I need to get my open bets in this weekend when I'm able to. So open to ideas there, given the markets that have been cooked down a little bit, but open to some thoughts. Tweet at us.
I'll have to think about that a little bit. All right. Well, that's it for the Scottish Open preview. You can follow us on Twitter at RTG Podcast DFS, our YouTube channel, Reading the Green, and any major podcast platform for tournament previews every Wednesday. We'll be back in a week with the results of the Scottish Open and our preview of the final major of the year, the Open Championship at Royal Troon. See ya.